In 2016, two Argentine students set out on a backpacking trip across South America, hoping to take a break from their studies. They had no idea their journey would end in tragedy and become one of the most complex and baffling investigations on the continent. Maria José Coney and Marina Menegazzo were two young women from the city of Mendoza. At the time, Maria José was 22 and Marina was 21. Maria studied economics at the University of Cuyo, while Marina was training to be a speech therapist at the University of Aconcagua. Both volunteered with an organization that helped people living on the streets. Friends and acquaintances described them as cheerful, kind-hearted girls who were very close to their families. On January 10, 2016, Maria José, Marina, and two other friends began their journey. With a short break from university, they decided to go backpacking through parts of South America, mainly Ecuador and Peru. From their social media posts, it was clear the trip was going well. The girls shared landscapes, impressions, and photos from the places they visited. On February 13th, just over a month into their travels, the group split up. Maria and Marina stayed in Ecuador, while the other two girls returned to Mendoza. This had been planned in advance. Maria and Marina had a few more days off before classes resumed, and they decided to use the time to explore more of Ecuador. While their friends made their way home, the two girls headed back to the coastal town of Montañita, one of the first places they'd visited in Ecuador. They wanted to return for the tropical beaches and the festive atmosphere. Montañita was a popular destination, especially for backpackers. To save money, the girls began selling fruit salads and burgers on the beach. This allowed them to cover the cost of their hostel, which was about $10 per night. They continued posting on social media pictures of the beach, swimming, smiling. They looked happy and carefree. Their time in Montañita was supposed to end on February 22nd, as they had a flight from Lima to Chile scheduled for February 25th. The plan was as follows. From Montañita, they would hitchhike to Guayaquil, fly to Lima, stay one night with friends there, and then fly to Chile, from where they would take a minibus back to Mendoza. Everything seemed well organized. The tickets were booked, and the route was set. On the morning of February 22nd, Maria and Marina spoke with their families, packed their things, and said they would hitchhike to Guayaquil because $70 had been stolen from them and they wanted to save money. Their relatives offered to send funds, but the girls declined, assuring them everything was under control. They also warned that they might be out of contact for a few days. The families expected to hear from them once they reached Lima, or at least before the flight, but that never happened. After the afternoon of February 22nd, all contacts ceased. The flight to Chile was scheduled for the morning of February 25th, so the girls were expected back in Argentina by the 26th. But they never arrived. By the 27th, their families were growing concerned. Marina's sister was the first to raise the alarm. She posted a photo of the girls on social media with the caption, "My sister and her friend went missing on Monday, February 22nd, in Montañita, Ecuador. Please share this information." Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa responded within hours. "The police are already investigating. Hug your parents and the parents of Maria José. All of Ecuador is with you." The families wanted to know if the girls had boarded their flight and left the country. But the airline refused to provide information without a court order. The Border Patrol had no record of them exiting Ecuador either. That's when the families began to suspect the worst. Perhaps Maria and Marina never even made it to Guayaquil. Something may have happened to them on the way. The disappearance quickly went viral across social media. All of Latin America was talking about the two missing girls. Argentina and Ecuador seemed to unite in the search effort and drew global attention to the case. It all ended on Thursday, February 25th. In an area roughly 200 meters from the beach, the body of Maria Jose was discovered. Then, on Sunday, February 28, just 40 meters from that spot, Marina's body was found. That's when the inconsistencies began. For instance, if Marina's body was so close to where Maria's had been found, why wasn't it discovered sooner? An autopsy was ordered to establish the time of death. Curiously, Maria's body was found by a man who had entered the area to relieve himself, and stumbled upon the corpse. Both women were wrapped in plastic bags and tied with ropes. Maria Jose had suffered a severe head injury, signs of physical trauma, including injuries to her genital area, a fractured hip, and multiple bruises and abrasions. Marina had 6 stab wounds from her chin to the first vertebra in her neck, along with facial and bodily abrasions. Both girls had wrist injuries, indicating they had likely been restrained. According to the autopsy, both died on the morning of February 23, within hours or even minutes of each other. The day after Marina's body was found, Ecuadorian police held a press conference and announced the arrest of 2 suspects. 2 men were taken into custody: Alberto Segundo Mina Ponce and Aurelio Eduardo Rodriguez, known as El Rojo. Bloodstains were discovered in Mina Ponce's house, along with Marina's backpack and cell phone. What shocked everyone even more was how quickly the men confessed. They gave detailed statements. They claimed they saw the girls near a bar, trying to hitchhike to Guayaquil, but no one was stopping. El Rojo approached them and started a conversation. The girls told him they had been robbed, had no money, and had nowhere to stay. He offered to take them to Mina Ponce's house, saying he lived alone. He called a taxi and brought them there around 8:30 p.m. Later, around 2 a.m., the men returned to the house, where the girls were still staying. The women reportedly asked them to go buy soda. But after returning, tensions escalated. The suspects claimed they were drunk and tried to initiate sex, which the girls refused. A struggle broke out. According to the confession, Maria Jose was the first to die. Mina Ponce admitted he struck her in the head with a metal object. When he realized she was dead, he heard a scream from the other room. It was Marina. El Rojo stabbed her 6 times in the neck. After the murders, El Rojo fled, leaving Mina Ponce alone with the bodies. He wrapped them in plastic, tied them with rope, and used a cart to move them. First, he disposed of Maria Jose's body, then Marina's. He thought the murders would go unnoticed and that no one would ever know they were responsible. According to the prosecution, this version of events, in addition to the confessions of both men, was supported by 2 witnesses: a bar owner and the taxi driver who took them to the house. The bar owner said she saw the girls around 2:30 p.m. They were trying to hitch a ride, but no one agreed to take them. Hours passed. Tired, Maria Jose and Marina Menegazzo entered the bar and asked for a glass of water. The woman offered them a bottle, but the girls refused. They had no money as they had been robbed that morning. So she gave them each a glass of water and they went back outside. Shortly after, a man nicknamed El Rojo approached them. The bar owner saw the 3 talking and then walking away together in the direction of Mina Ponce's house. The taxi driver had a similar story. He said he was flagged down as they walked along the road. El Rojo sat in the front seat and the girls got in the back. The driver noted that both were silent the whole way and seemed a bit drowsy. He dropped them off at the house without asking questions and drove away. For the victims' families, this version of events was completely unacceptable. It seemed strange that the girls would agree to go with strangers. Montañita was frequented by many Argentinians, and in a difficult situation, it would have made more sense for Maria and Marina to seek help from fellow countrymen. Additionally, the claim that they had no money seemed doubtful. Both girls had bank cards and could have withdrawn funds at any time. In fact, it was later discovered that a transaction had been made using Maria José's card at an ATM near their hostel. This proved that the girls had enough money to pay for at least one night at a hotel. Gradually, this version began to collapse in the eyes of the public as well. The brother of one of the girls said that when the Ecuadorian police brought him to the house where the crime had occurred, he noticed used syringes on the floor. When he asked about them, the syringes mysteriously disappeared. They hadn't even been photographed. The forensic team denied having seen them. For the family, this was a clear sign that Mina Ponce and El Rojo were scapegoats for something much bigger, possibly human trafficking. Meanwhile, the investigation continued. A second autopsy and toxicological examination were ordered. It also emerged that the accused had changed their statements multiple times. In one version, Mina Ponce completely distanced himself and El Rojo from the crime, claiming that a Venezuelan drug trafficker nicknamed El Chamo was the real killer. El Chamo did, in fact, live in the area. He was detained by police but insisted on his innocence, agreeing to a polygraph and DNA testing. He was eventually cleared. His DNA did not match any found at the crime scene. DNA samples were found at the scene, from Mina Ponce, the two victims, and several unidentified individuals. These unknown samples did not match El Rojo or El Chamo. The second autopsy caused a major stir. Maria José's time of death remained February 23, but Marina's death was pushed to February 25. This meant that when Maria José's body was discovered, her friend was likely still alive. This explained why, despite the two bodies being only 40 meters apart, only one had initially been found. People began to suspect that Marina had been kidnapped, abused, and tortured during those 2 days. The Ecuadorian police claimed they hadn't found Marina due to rain. However, weather data showed that it hadn't rained that day. Thus, the second autopsy was considered reliable. Other important details also came to light. Maria José had bruises and scratches on only one side of her body, as if she had been thrown from a moving vehicle. Both girls had injuries to their genital areas, indicating sexual assault. Furthermore, Maria José had a broken hip, but there were no corresponding external injuries to explain the fracture. The toxicology report was the most shocking. Substances were found in the girls' blood that, when mixed with alcohol, cause a complete loss of will. This explained their unusual behavior in the taxi. Silence, drowsiness, lethargy. Their families described them as extremely cautious and responsible. Their behavior did not match their personalities. This gave serious weight to the theory that they had been drugged. The investigation faced numerous challenges. The prosecutor changed 3 times, significantly delaying the case. But ultimately, Alberto Segundo Mina Ponce and Aurelio Eduardo Rodriguez were sentenced to 40 years in prison. However, the case didn't end there. Unidentified DNA samples remained in the house. The investigation continued, and 2 more suspects were arrested. One was fully acquitted. His DNA didn't match, and his alibi was airtight. The other, on the contrary, was found to be involved. His name was José Luis Pérez. Notably, he was the one who had supposedly, accidentally, discovered Maria José's body. At the time, he testified as a witness, but he now found himself on trial. His defense was absurd. He claimed he had lived in that house weeks before the crime and that the blood on the wall was from a tooth infection. He had allegedly spat on the wall. As for his DNA on the girls' bodies, he said it had transferred from furniture he had previously touched. This version collapsed when his dentist was called to testify. The dentist confirmed that Perez had indeed visited him, but 2 weeks after the murders, and was completely healthy. Perez had even asked the doctor to backdate a note claiming he had an infection, but the dentist refused. It was also suspicious that he was the one who found the body. All of this completely undermined his defense. In November 2019, José Luis Perez was found guilty and sentenced to 40 years in prison. It could be said that the case was solved, but only partially. Some DNA samples remain unidentified. Many questions remain. What happened during the night and morning of February 23 in that house? What happened to Marina during the 2 days when Maria José was already dead? Were there other perpetrators? Was this a premeditated abduction? These questions remain unanswered to this day. And the families of both girls continue to fight for full justice.